Yes, good afternoon, everyone. This is Muslim Streets coming to you from Florida with the host Malik Aziz. I am the co host, Dr. Vibert White, Director of Global Operations for Muslim Streets. Tonight, we have a very, very exciting show, and we have an extremely interesting man that we want to interview. His name is Tony Holden Muhammad. Now, many of us have heard over the years of Americans being held in foreign prisons, being captives, and so forth. And we hear this in places as in China, Cuba, Russia. But this is a case whereby it involves an American, an African American Muslim in a place, in a country that's allegedly an ally of the United States, where this brother was held for 3 years, and many of us did not even know. The media did not report that he was there. The media did not report that he was an African American, and he just was released on behalf of the work of President um, of our president. So I'm going to introduce Mr. Tony Muhammad. Tony, assalamu alaikum, and thank you and welcome to the Muslim Streets.
Wa alaikum salam. First and foremost, Bismillah ar-Rahim, to the distinguished individuals and members and uh, movers and shakers of the Muslim street. I thank you for allowing me to be on this platform to share a bit of my experience with respect to uh, being wrongfully detained in the state of Kuwait. A couple of things I just want to do for the listening audience, and no overstepping or disrespect to you, Mr. White. But actually, I was detained for 2.5 years. Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
just want to make that clarification, and I want to definitely kind of walk you a little bit through some specifics. This was a collective effort. As a matter of fact, my whole spirit and intent is to deliver this testimony uh, from the perspective of the support that I received from the global village. There were a lot of key players, a lot of key individuals behind the scenes working in a collective effort to bring this day forward for myself. Um, for those who know me, my brother, who may not know me, I'm Brother Tony Muhammad, uh, registered and active in the Nation of Islam. I've been doing civilian contracting for better of 15 years, and I've worked consistently throughout the Middle East through the ending of the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War. So I've been in a war zone, several countries. I pretty much have worked in uh, Iraq, Bahrain, Afghanistan, Kuwait, Dubai, UAE, and again, it's been a very, very trying journey and a very enlightening experience. Okay, with
Mm-hmm.
that being said, I just want to kind of set the tone because I'm going to go into a couple of things that I am thankful in being able to tell the narrative, you know what I mean, as I've been the one personally experiencing this. But I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to start off, beloved, if I could, as a Muslim and a believer of the Holy Quran and the Bible, the Injil, the Word of God, and the Scripture. I want to read something from the Holy Quran to to lay a basis to some of the things that I like to highlight in my experience. Allah says in the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, it says, I, Allah, am the best knower. Do men think that they will be left alone, saying, we believe and will not be tried? And indeed, we tried those before them. So Allah will certainly know those who are true, and He will know the liars. Or do they think, or do those who work evil think that they will escape us? Evil it is that they judge. Whoever hopes to meet with Allah, the terms of Allah is surely coming, and He is the hearing and the knower. When whoever strives hard strives for himself, surely Allah is self-sufficient above the needs of His creatures. Why did I choose to do that? Because as a Muslim, this whole experience came to me, and it has been a part of my life journey in the context of the walk of a Muslim or just a believing person, an individual, whatever faith declaration that you make and you claim, surely you will be tried on that faith and that
Yes.
basis. All right. So to get into the spiritual connotation of how I would like to share my narrative, about 2.5 or close to 3 years ago, I was detained illegally in the state of Kuwait, being falsely accused by an individual of being part of a drug. Uh, uh,
Brother Tony, could
yeah.
we back up just a second? Because because many of our listeners and many of our viewers are somewhat maybe are uncertain about contractors. When you overseas, when you are contracted, were you on working on behalf of the United States government or a private entity to do a certain service?
Yes, thank you, sir. Yeah, definitely. Just a point of clarity: the United States military eventually understood that in order for them to do what they do, had developed civilian contractors as a part of absorbing cost services for the military. It's no different than what you may see here if there's a military base in or around the city that you're a part of. You might have outside vendors and contractors bringing in water, bringing in food, servicing mechanical equipment, doing IT, all sorts of things that pretty much make up a day-to-day job in any institutional entity. So the civilian contractor means that I was not active duty military, was not working uh, uh, as a active member in the military, but as a civilian contractor. In my journey as a contractor, I've worked for several companies, starting off with Kellogg. No, actually starting off with working for the Center of Disease Control. I was contracted out there in Iraq, KBR, Kellogg's Brown and Root, Floor, Veterans. These are big players in the game. I
I
mean,
see.
military contractor is big business.
Yeah.
It's real big business.
I see. So before your confinement, your arrest, how long were you working in Kuwait?
I started my contract in Kuwait in July of 2016. So
Mhm.
at that time, we were talking about a better of 6 years, maybe 6.5 around that time, because it was 22. So 16, the summer of 16 is when I started and moved over to Kuwait. And again, Brother White was asking me questions about contracting. Contracting is lucrative. I mean, whatever your profession is, whatever service you do in order to provide a means and financial support for yourself and your family. And I wanted to really definitely clarify that. I took that initial step as a result of being in a new trade, HVAC, and our instructor was telling us the benefits and the possibilities of working contract, and it was a part of encouraging me. And I say, okay, I'll give it a shot. So contracting, military contracting, is basically the government outsourcing maintenance, food service, IT, tech support, anything that they need. But I didn't deal anything with combat or um, you know in that aspect of my working. But I was in a war zone. And again, when incoming missiles are coming in, it doesn't matter. It doesn't distinguish between yourself and the military. And
Right.
unfortunately, I've lost colleagues, lost a fellow Memphian, uh, Lemon Matthews. He was killed in Afghanistan. He worked in HVAC from the city of Memphis. Uh, he was killed in a car bomb attack. He was T-boned by a vehicle that was loaded with explosives.
I see.
And again, I mean, I witnessed warfare firsthand.
I see.
I,
So,
it's not a badge of honor, but it does suggest that, you know what I mean, that what I was willing to do to take care of myself and my family.
mhm.
Uh, and we are fighting and recovering. I've had a tremendous support from my loved ones, from my community, from very influential and positive people that God has brought closer to me in my life. And I'm
I
going to
see.
mention someone a little bit later. We
So
did.
it's lucrative but very dangerous. And for 6 years in Kuwait, was it was it smooth sailing for you? Was it good before the situation that you're going to talk about took place?
No, it's never smooth sailing when you are thousands of miles away from your home and you're in another country with a different set of rules and different ways that they handle things. Unfortunately, Kuwait is just not. It's a very wealthy, small country, but they're definitely behind time. So there were a lot of challenges that we work with and work through. So no, it wasn't necessarily smooth sailing. Yes, there were other minor issues that occurred, but by God's grace, it that in and of itself wasn't a deterrent. You know what I mean? But this situation most definitely served as a permanent deterrent.
Can you give us a background of the maybe the last 24 hours to your arrest? What was taking place and how was it done? And what were the reasons that they did it?
Well, yeah, the last 24 hours before that, I worked in Kuwait as a project manager. So my project supervisor, pardon me, but my responsibility was to, work directly with the outside contractors, setting up meetings, taking bids, doing inspection, documentation for current. I had probably close to 120 projects in my queue at the time. Um, I was not feeling well the day before, so I took about a half day and just took a rest. And later that afternoon, I just spoke to my supervisor. I mean, pardon me, manager. Said that I'm probably going to be leaving early, so I went home, rest, and relax. And the following day, I received a phone call from my director, and he said it was very important. I need to see you. I need to see you. I mentioned to him, yeah, okay, well, give me a time. At the time, my daughter, who was president in Kuwait at the time as well, uh, she
How
was
old was she?
at that time. Amaya may have been 2. Yeah, she
Oh,
was 2,
wow.
3. So she wasn't feeling well. Her mother had contacted me, and I made arrangement to go see her. Uh, my director at that time was pressing, "Hey, I need to see you. It's very urgent." Then I said, "Okay, I'll make a point to get there. A few things that need to straighten up." So fast forward, I met with him, and he explained to me that there was an incident occurred with an individual. I
Hmm.
was, familiar with the individual, and he was, according to what my director said, he was picked up by CID. That's the like what you call equivalent to the DEA, and
I see.
he put my name in a situation that had nothing to do with. And from that, he explained to me to make sure that what I mean, that I'd be able to resolve and deal with that situation. So I said okay. Then I left and went home, checked in with my family, and I was preparing to because I had received information about the death of a family member, and I was working on some travel arrangement, possibly coming up that weekend. So I left, made some phone calls, checked in with my family, tried to reach them to get some information. And at that time, I didn't discuss anything with them about that because I didn't want them to panic and hit no panic buttons or anything. I just pretty much moved around and continuing and just was being prepared to go back in the next day. And I contacted a travel agent and went there to find out some information about traveling later on, a few more days later in the week. Possibly, I lost a family member that was very dear, a first cousin, matter of fact. And this was much later in the afternoon. Apparently, they had been following me, and when I was uh, at the travel agency later that afternoon, guys who were not dressed in police uniform or anything, didn't properly identify themselves, just grabbed me. All right. And for me, I know through my training and understanding the state of Kuwait that you have to be very strategic in terms of how you handle a situation like that. So uh, when they detained me, they pressed me, harassed me about drugs, about uh, Do you know this individual? Showed me pictures of people. I said, I don't know who this is. And they handcuffed me and they grabbed me, put me in the car. It's probably about seven or eight guys at that time. And where do you live? Where do you live? Where do you live? And I told them I live here, such and such place. And they took me to my place. What drugs? Drugs. I said, I don't have drugs. You come to my house and you can check. There's no drugs on me.
Mm-hmm.
So they went to the house. One of the officers, he struck me while I was handcuffed.
He struck you?
Yes.
Mm.
At this point, things shifted to a whole nother level. I didn't have access to my phone. They retrieved my phones, so I couldn't contact anybody immediately. And as I said previously, I took it. You know what I mean? I took it. I'm handcuffed, but it didn't shake me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So from that point on, the guys, you know what I mean? If you've seen Training Day, it was like a Training Day activity. I can kind of laugh at it now, Brother Malik. They went to the apartment. They weren't trying to get in. I was like, yo, they kicked the door down. I said, he's crazy.
So you're telling me that as a contractor, you was not protected under American jurisdiction?
Oh, yeah, you are, but there are particular protocols. For example, if you're working directly for the Department of Defense, DOD, if they apprehend you, they have to immediately release you and turn you back into the custody of the Defense Department because of security clearances. Some of the guys that I work with also have clearances, but if they're working for a civilian contractor, they don't necessarily get the same treatment. And this treatment here that I'm speaking about specifically right now, Brother Malik, Brother White, this wasn't always the policy. If you historically know that it was the United States of America that liberated Kuwait from Iraq,
right?
So that level of harassment and how they would handle any suspected or alleged, violation of law or crime was held totally different. It was handled in a diplomatic way as it should. Embassies contacted, personnel dealt directly with the military or the embassy and the Kuwait government. And generally, at best, you would just get deported. You know what I mean? Not detained, arrested, and harassed, and physically attacked. But I tell you, as Allah is my witness, it didn't shake me in that sense.
But why do you think they were so heavy-handed with you?
Just their tactics. Here, when I'm locked down, you know what I mean. I talk to some of my brothers, Brother Malik, Muslim brothers, and they say, yeah, these fake DEA, not real. See TV, want to do TV, what's on TV, you know what I mean. So I mean, what people don't understand the culture of the not just the Middle East, but a lot of countries throughout the world. America has a tremendous influence through culture, through music, through entertainment. And a lot of times what they see, they don't distinguish between what's Hollywood and what's not real. And no, that's not really the real deal. And it's a lot of evidence of that if you would check the track records. So harassment, interrogation. At the time, the mother of my child and myself, we didn't reside in the same residence. For other reasons that we're not going to go into detail about, but they also had trailed me to her place. They had been following me and went to her place and doing the same thing, looking for drugs, and nothing was found. But the pivotal point that I mean, when I say I don't like to go into it because mentally, psychologically, there's still some recovering, brother.
Yeah.
Right.
Malik,
I do want to tell you they harassed my family. Brother Malik, they violated every aspect of this book we call Holy Quran with harassment to my mother, my children, and my child, and physically putting their hands on my child.
Yeah. And I had a chance to look at some of the records and the history of contractors, especially contractors who are African Americans. And what we have found is that there seems to be a disproportionate number of African American contractors who are accused and arrested, and it seemed to be profiled. Would this be accurate? Uh,
Yes, very accurate, very accurate. Because one thing we got to understand, this mentality that we are so familiar with in America, it's pervasive, it's worldwide. I mean, we handled and treated like this all throughout the world. There are places that we can go and do, and I have visit where the respect of us as a people and as Black people is respected. But I wouldn't consider that to be Kuwait.
Mm.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but by Allah's grace, you are correct, and by God's grace, one of the things that a prominent imam told me as he worked to fight to get me out, he said, "Brother, perhaps you are in this situation for Allah to help those Americans," because he was made aware from myself calling from the inside that how many other Americans was locked up. He said nobody knew about this.
Right.
Nobody knows this is going on. And he said, "Brother, perhaps you're in this situation for Allah to bring light to this and fight." And ironically enough, as Allah is my witness, my case was handled and pushed all the way to the State Department. Every major advocate for wrongfully detained Americans throughout the world, every high profile case that you've watched and witnessed through the news media, that team was working directly on my behalf and for the grace of Allah.
Yeah.
Brittany Garner, Paul Whelan, the journalist from the Wall Street, the recent case. You heard that recently there was a prisoner pardon or release in Venezuela. Those individuals, I met their families. They were very aware of my case. And when I say this, that it's more about a testimony for me based on the spirit that the community have had for me. And there are things that happened that allowed us as an entire group of people to be released. There were
Mhm.
freedom fighters locked up with us. There were brothers like Darius the White, okay, brother Eric Holder, okay, Eric Davis, uh, different other individuals. I don't want to run the roll call because some of these brothers would like for their names to be kept private.
Yeah. Two
I want
questions.
to make sure. I got to say this. I want to make sure that we understand that this was a collective effort in order to bring us all home.
Yeah.
And those individuals that were part of that fight
Yeah.
are
Just
brothers who were trying to get their lives back together. And all of us were African American. There was a teacher, uh,
Mhm.
Leanne Davis. Eric, he was a Caucasian, but he was a veteran. He fought in Kuwait. We currently have one individual, Darius Funches, who's still there, and we're still fighting. So some things we don't want to go deep into details because the behind the scenes negotiation, it's important for me to say this, is very delicate and very sensitive, and getting into a lot of the nuts and bolts of what really happened and the corruption, we have to be very careful because that brother is still there and we
Mhm.
want our brother home.
yeah.
He's the
Uh,
youngest one out of everybody that was there. He was instrumental in bringing together the individuals that fought to
Mhm.
help bring us home. There were individuals who came there, boots on the ground, and Mr. John Franks, along with other individuals who rallied with us, who helped us put book money on our books, who helped us to get food from canteen, who were in direct connection and communication with our families, came to visit our families, and we as a group became tight. My particular role, I'm just a part of this entire fight and struggle. There were some unique things that I wanted to share as it related to what Allah put on my heart and how I saw myself in that situation.
Yeah, and
But
on
again,
in the home front, during that time, we heard a lot of stories about Brittany Griner,
yes,
who was detained in Russia, and her sentence was 9 months, and there was a lot of hoopla about this, and she was released, but the American media, at least I don't remember, maybe Malik can, or Brother Lance can remember, did not speak much or of anything about African Americans being held, especially by an ally.
Mhm.
But we gave a lot of talk about a basketball player who's an entertainer, but we have people like yourself who's doing a valuable service for the administration and to the government.
Yeah.
So, isn't it fair to suggest that because of your color, even though you talked about other people, but because of your color and because of the extension or the extension of racism in Kuwait, that you were profiled, you were arrested not because of anything you did, but because you were an African American in their country. We also know that a lot of Africans get caught up in things.
Yes. Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you, Brother Yusef, Brother Abby. I have friends who I hope by now they're out that we fought with. I want to make note. Let me pin note something, because what happens behind scenes, and when anybody, regardless if they're an entertainer, regardless if they're a professional basketball player, regardless if the political climate was expedient to make this case more public than my case. All
Right.
right. For me, and I've read parts of Brittany's story, I was very touched by her story and very striking similarities. And I want to come to her defense in this context. For one, she served only 19, but she was actually sentenced to serve 15 years. And I think we need to be wide awake on something very important. This is nothing new. This is nothing new in terms of how, when we are in these types of situations, how others or high profile people are given more attention than others. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. It's a fault on two sides. On the government side, in the interest of the people, for the people, you have to fight for all, regardless of class, creed, or color. We are responsible for putting that pressure on our government. We are
Mhm.
the people. If we don't put pressure on the politicians, if we don't hold them accountable, they'll do what they want to do. We didn't shut down anybody's office. Okay. Now, the delicate part of that situation is, and why I want to be out here publicly, because we need to understand how the game is being played, what needs to happen. Okay. There was not one black organization that had the,
That's right.
listen, let me say this point. Not one black organization had the infrastructure to go in and handle this as an international issue. So I want you to come back and share, because I made phone calls. Brother Malik, no, I mean, we have a history together. So I'm locked up, man. All that history and the experience that he and I worked on the front line, went to work there. My point, the nonprofit organization that played the nucleus and the key role with the support of the nation, the Muslim community, the Kappa Alpha Psi, my neighborhood, local politician, state politician, some national politicians. They were all galvanized around a situation that had not. I had 4 stateside lawyers working on my behalf pro bono by Allah's grace. I had 2 lawyers actively working in Kuwait by Allah's grace. And above all, I had the prayer of the Muslims in the believing community. The decree that went up for prayer is very significant, Mr. White, in the context of what we need to do. Of course, we don't get what we always expect and should expect from them, but the ability for us to do this and for us to get the job done. My situation is a classic example, because people fought day and night. People were galvanized all throughout the states and the community. What wasn't made public was for a particular reason, because there were a lot of delicate negotiation going on behind closed doors. But you are right in terms of visibility. You are right. Generally, it's high profile people, okay, and politicians acting in the best interest. If it's a win-win, they grab it and run with it. Look what happened to that the wrongfully deported
Mhm.
immigrant. He wasn't even American. Wrongfully detained and deported and sent to El Salvador. Look at what happened.
Mm-hmm.
You and I, let's look at what happened. What happened? A politician rallied behind that issue and that cause. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know all the motives, and my heart surely goes out to his family, okay? But that particular elected official, just by stepping up and going there and making that case public in the way that it was made, helped facilitate that individual and to come back and to go through proper court procedures as in terms of.
I remember several years ago, and Malik remembers this. It's in the 1980s, I believe, and you had Minister Farrakhan, Jesse Jackson, Leon Sullivan, and a host of others went to Iraq, and they argued for the release of a lieutenant. Do you
Lieutenant
remember,
Cook.
Malik? Yes,
Lieutenant
to be
Cook.
released.
Actually, it was Beirut.
Yeah, yes, and then, but here. I didn't see. I mean, you talked about a lot of organizations. I didn't see much from now National Action Network, led by Al Sharpton. I didn't hear anything from the NAACP. I didn't hear anything from the core or even African Methodist Episcopal Church. You see,
Well,
so
just
so
Brother White, that's a big part of my needing to testify. I will say in defense of the nation that there was a representative that was responsible for coming over and investigating. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, up in his age, could not make that kind of physical journey at his age, and he was experiencing family a loss of life. But he did send a representative, and he did make contact with my second lawyer, who worked directly with the State Department. So our community was directly involved in this, in that context. And if you hear me out, the Muslim community, we received a major donation. We did social media campaigns. We raised funds. And I'm very, very happy and elated at the community and its response to me as an individual. I saw it. What concerns me is what we need to do collectively, because there are others. There are others in this kind of situation. So, Brother White, one of the things that I'd like to bring back is that within our own institutions, we have to have the infrastructure in place. It's 2025. We can't say, well, that brother or that sister is way over there. Let's find the detail, because the very people that were responsible for instrumenting certain things, they did it on the spirit of a will and determination, like any of us could have had. Meaning that every major Black organization should have a representative and a special envoy in place in the infrastructure to deal with international affairs as it relates to Black people.
Yeah,
A plethora of resources out there that can help us in this kind of situation. But if we don't know that, if we don't know how to tap into those resources, then we lay stagnant. I was given information. I got to say this.
How many African Americans are currently detained on trumped up charges by the Kuwaiti government?
I'm not sure. And that's a number I couldn't give you, in fact, but I knew that there's one individual who was part of this original pardon that was orchestrated with the Emir through our activists, through our organization, and through our State Department. Here's what I would like to say. There are at least 50 plus, last I heard, that were detained throughout the Middle East. Now, for us, it is our responsibility to open up a door and use all kinds of avenues to put this information out there. If you have a family member or a loved one experiencing any type of legal jeopardy or issues abroad, contact us, and then we will point you in the direction. Here's the resources. Here's what we need to do. I was fortunate. My family, which is affectionately called Holden Nation, I come from a large family, 14 of us brothers and sisters, and a mother and father that was married 70 plus years, and a whole plethora of children, grandchildren. And I mean we're very visible in the city of Memphis.
Yeah.
And we're loved, and we love Memphis. And that allowed me to lean heavy, Brother Malik, on being a native son of Memphis. You know, politicians were receiving phone calls directly. Reginald Hubbard and April Hubbard flew to Washington, D.C., knocking on doors. Hey, we get this our brother. We need y'all involved in this. Now, that's not everybody's situation.
Yeah.
So when I try to go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so Brother Tony, wow. I mean, your story is amazing. It's scalable. It's relatable. I want to back up a little bit, Dr. White, and have also Brother Tony jump in on this. And I'll use a case example. There is a political prisoner. Her name is Dr. Afia Sadiq, a Pakistani doctor who was taken to a black site under the Bush administration back about 20 years or so ago. There's a brother who's been working very hard, highlighting her case. She's Muslim, and for her politics, she's just been held as a political prisoner. I had a conversation with him prior to the first Trump administration, and as Donald Trump was going to win the election in 2016 over Hillary Clinton, I pointed to the case of our Muslim sister, Asada Shakur. Asada Shakur, who was illegally imprisoned along with Geronimo Pratt, Sundiata Kohli, Doroba bin Wahad, all from the Black Liberation Army.
Go ahead.
In the early 70s. And what happened with in that case was they bust Asada Shakur out. That's a revolutionary act. In the case of Afia Sadiq, who is still held, the brother who's leading the charge for her, doing all the picketing and getting information out, keeping it aware. I had him on the Muslim street several times. And I said to him, well, Trump's coming in office. He's a wild card. And he's a wild card in that he may be interested in prisoner swaps. He literally cussed me out. Okay. Brittany Griner, years later, who was held on drug charges, was traded for the merchant of death.
Right.
Victor Bout, a Russian arms dealer who put death on the streets, has hundreds of thousands of bodies, right? That was a prisoner swap. So a revolutionary act, as we politicize the issue of Tony holding Muhammad, I was arguing while you were locked up, Brother Tony, that when it comes down to it, it may come to a situation where a prisoner swap, it has to take place. Trump's done this many a times. He did it in Egypt within 2 months of coming in office in 2016. I didn't discuss with the brother on the Afia Sadiq situation, who she still is a political prisoner. How do you feel about that now, bro? Because that's a tactic, right? A tactic that led to your release, right, was a tactic that has to be supported, Brother Tony, has to be worked on, but other tactics and latent possibilities have to be taking place, right? And that is prison swaps, and that is, if it comes down to it, bro, we ain't letting you die over in some Kuwaiti jail. We're coming to bust you out, and that's just the way it is. And until we look at politicizing this issue as political prisoners, it's going to be held in the context of, let's engage current politicians. They engaged the State Department under Biden, under your case, but it was under Trump. And I'd like for you to speak to that. I'm not giving him any, kudos and all this kind of stuff. But I'd like for you to speak to, if you can, shed some light on processes and procedures of how all that went down.
Okay, very, very good. And brother Malik, man, and I have been close friends for quite some time, man. We share a very dear and precious brotherhood and friendship. And the difference between the two is just in general. I know Brother Malik, if he heard about my situation, he didn't know me personally and just heard about it. As a brother, I knew he would have been involved just because that's how he moved. But the friendship gets me and us in different places and spaces. And we share and we discuss. And there are things that we can't go in depth on this platform. But I would tell you this much. Different administrations move and work different. Now, here's the thing. There was a fight to have myself and the other Americans released going on aggressively before Donald Trump's second term. Okay. The mentality of the Biden administration that was focused in other areas. And politicians work a certain kind of way. When there's an easy win or it's politically expedient for them to do a particular thing, if they're orthodox or unorthodox politicians, you see a lot of activity along those lines. So here's why I want to make this clarification very clear. Everyone involved in our release was just an instrument, period. Allah says in the Holy Quran, and I believe this firmly, that when he desires a thing to happen, he said, kun fayakun, be, and it is. If it was an intent for those doors to remain locked, nobody could have opened. Not Biden, not Trump, not the emir, no one. But if Allah desired for those gates and doors to be open and for us to pass through, no one could have stopped that. I witnessed firsthand that spiritual reality that I'm sharing. Okay, Brother Malik touched on a couple of things. One, I don't want to miss these points. Why are we political prisoners? Okay, because these are situations and circumstances that no, these people shouldn't be locked up and deprived of their family. No, this doesn't add up. It's not. Most certainly, it's not Sharia. And I've read books and I've studied my book and our book. And if you know anything about the laws, and just on the basis of what America granted to Kuwait, that should have been a no-brainer. But what about our other revolutionaries? Generally, the government and the powers that be will use any and everything as a pawn to keep things moving in the way that they desire for it to be moved. If political prisoners who are revolutionary thinkers, who inspire, encourage, and enlighten people to think, to study, to rise above emotion into the thinking in the facts of a given situation, then the game changes. See, they don't want thinkers to be out there in no shape, form, and fashion. And those who know me, like I said, Brother Malik and I are just not brothers, we're personal friends. And we agree on the most depth of truths, our faith and realities. We don't agree on everything, and we don't see everything the same. We have different perspectives about different things. But as a friend, the respect level has always been here. And what he's trying to allude to, I would tell you this, there was a different factor when Donald Trump was elected. Donald Trump is surrounded by people with special interests. The special envoy, his representative, it's a billionaire. Okay? What the Biden administration was dragging their feet and moving slow, even though they publicly said that it would be in the interest of the Biden administration, Anthony Blinken, on October the 5th, right before the invasion of Palestine and Gaza, said that it is the interest of the United States government under the Biden administration to bring home all Americans who are being held, wrongfully detained, or being held in foreign prisons. Okay, that immediately got redirected and the attention went somewhere else. But in all actuality, a government for the people, by the people, that should have never been put on the back burner.
So, Brother Tony, in a press release, you thanked President Trump for being instrumental. Are you suggesting that his work in helping to gain your release was a political action, whereby you were just a pawn on a chessboard being used?
Let me say
Are you
this.
suggesting
Let me
that?
say this, Brother White. I'm not in Donald Trump's mind. And being released, man, that wasn't even my concern. I don't want to cuss, man. All right, because somebody special was trying to help me clean up my language. But let me say this to you, Brother White, because I want the energy to be felt out there.
Right.
When you are in that kind of situation, you have the standing guard, you have the rotating guard, you have the chaplain, you have the warden. All of them play a role. I didn't give a damn who had the key. When they opened that door and it was time for me to walk out, I was walking out. Ultimately, I believe, Brother White, that Allah decreed that I come home and everything else just fell in place. What was in Donald Trump's mind? I don't know. I follow protocol as I have been taught and as God put on my heart to say. He's serving president. Okay, his disposition on Make America Great Again perhaps was very instrumental in me coming home. I believe that perhaps there could have been some sympathy because he was fighting legal situation in his own personal life, but I'm not in his head. And I'm not even trying to lean that heavy into the situation because I don't know what's in his head. All I know to do is to thank the acting president and a former, not informal, but a former representative of his administration, flying to Kuwait, sitting down with the necessary individuals in the government of Kuwait, negotiating and arriving at a pardon for 23 of my brothers and fellow Americans to come back home, with the exception of one. All right, Darius, which was the youngest brother there. So the politics is not really my bag of tea, a cup of tea. I believe that if I want to lean into the political side of it, just clouds everything. And I never will have any problem saying this, as Donald Trump was very instrumental. Very.
So when you were released along with your associates, negotiation, what did Kuwait get in return?
I can't verify that. I know that Kuwait obviously got a goodwill acknowledgement because the individuals that may have been involved. See, because there's a lot I can't get into, but I can say this, that on a lower level. So you got to understand this, Brother White, Brother Malik. There's a class issue in most parts of the world, in governments and countries. All right. The wealthy are the wealthy of the wealthy. All right. Who get their wealth from however they get their wealth. And particularly with, let's say, Kuwait oil. Then there are people who want to be, who do exploitation. I mean, my gold, stuff that I personally own, I was robbed. You know what I mean? This is a training day type activity. And the guys came in, not just only physically assaulted me and my family, but also robbed me, Brother Malik, Brother White, of stuff that belonged to me. Shoes, clothes, jewelry, money. Why? It didn't belong to them. Now, back to your point. High officials negotiated, came to a conclusion, and it was we wasn't serving no purpose. 23 Americans locked up in the Kuwait prison system. The prison system in itself, it's a lot of stuff, man. It's corrupt in and of itself, and it's a form of exploitation there as it is in America. Okay, and 23 with upward close to 10,000 other prisoners. 23. What did that matter? What did they get out of it? Well, kudos for a goodwill gesture. Kudos. Mm-hmm. You know, what other things that were negotiated? I wasn't at the table to negotiate. I wasn't at the table to know the fine line and detail. And although in your mind you may find that to be, you know what I mean, a worthy question, man, look how good God is, or how great God is. Look how God rallied and brought, you know what I mean, the community together and allowed 22 other Americans to be back home with their families in a situation that they could have been serving nothing of good in that situation. And the guys that I came in contact with appeared to be all good guys, man. And you know, I'm not their judge. I don't know, and I didn't care to know the front and back of their cases. And I'll tell you this: majority of them not only were they civilian contractors, but they were former military. Some even played a part in liberating Kuwait from Iraq. Yeah. All right. So, man, you gotta understand, brother. I can't get into all the specifics. All right. The largest military presence in the Middle East. All right. It wavers back and forth between Kuwait, maybe Saudi, but Kuwait is way up there at the top of the food chain as far as military presence. So that wasn't, I mean, for that to be just handled in the way that it was handled, it's I mean, it was an easy thing for them up top. Okay.
Yeah, brother Tony, we're gonna run the show over another 15 minutes because of the technical difficulties that we had in the front. We do the editing, make this look pretty. I want to pivot. First, we just tell the audience you're listening to the Muslim Street weekly podcast. You can also find us on www.themuslimstreet.com. Brother Tony, I want to pivot to now that you're back, you're kind of getting settled in your personal life, your professional life. You mentioned you're a project manager, all these important things, supporting your family. Let's talk a little bit about how that reintegration back into your family life and your personal life back in the country. Tell us a little bit about how's that been going for you?
Well, I think a good backdrop of that is mentioning the last book that I read before I was arrested. That's someone's dear and special to me. It's called The Glimpse of the Warrior Within. And this book, this young lady shared with us a life-changing experience and journey that led her to searching deep within herself on fighting the unfortunate and misfortunate attitudes and actions of, a corrupt world. And the context of when you in any given situation, like I say, Allah says in the Quran, do many things they will be left alone without not being tried. We are all going to be tried. We're in our test. If we find the warrior within, if we tap into the God source that he put in us to battle whatever life circumstances that we come up against, it brings something out of us. And it uniquely gives us the unique opportunity to have a testimony. And that testimony can bring life to any and everybody. Most certainly her story was inspiring to me. And it was instrumental in survival because, Brother Malik, when you are incarcerated, each individual may handle that kind of situation different. But you know me well enough, personally, as a friend and a brother, that Brother Tony, free spirit. I get in trouble all the time. You know that. I get in trouble with so many people, man, because, man, I do what my heart and what God leads me to do. And I don't bound myself to people's ideas, opinion, or ideology of what they think should be and shouldn't be done. I operate specifically in these parameters, of my religion and inspiration and guidance, but I'm a free spirit. Well, Allah blessed me to be able to be trained a particular way before going into this situation. Allah blessed me to have a very strong and support system. Unfortunately, I've been through some life trials and changes, and I want to say this, that the mothers of my children that are involved in my life, who, I'm no longer legally married to, they were instrumental and they put up a fight. My brothers and my sisters, they put up a fight. My friends and loved ones, Brother Malik, you all put up fights. And that prepared me to exit a traumatic situation. So it was a soft landing. I say this, Brother Malik, that through this process, my life journey touched a little bit on Jonah, a little bit of Job's life, a little bit of Joseph, Jonah, and Job and the prodigal son. And I say that because all that I went through, the shame of having to put my family through that situation, friends and loved ones, I had to fight. The times when my faith wasn't as strong as it should have been or needed to be, but I kept fighting. You know what I mean? Every day I went to sleep and woke up with a heart and mind on, how did I find myself in this situation? And God kept tapping me on the shoulder. You know what I mean? Surely the remembrance of Allah is the greatest force. Surely the remembrance of Allah is the greatest force. And I continued to pray. I fast, I prayed, and I believed, and I had hope that I was going to see the day of light. That hope was not always at 10. It never, in my opinion, fell down to 0. And searching for the warrior within yourself means that you got to be honest with yourself. You know what I mean? Brother Malik, you got to be honest with who you are. Am I right, brother?
That's right.
So I had to go in my private chamber, Brother White, in my private chamber. You see, Allah said, okay, well, stand in the corner. I had to deal with shortcomings, egos, vanity, impatience. I had to deal with the imperfected side of myself that I couldn't lay at nobody's feet. So I'm in this room looking at all these characters. You know what I mean? Tony
But
Soprano, Memphis.
but did the Kuwaiti government ever offer an apology or compensation for your unlawful detention?
Brother, let me finish my point, please, if you don't mind. And
Okay.
let me make this clear. The Kuwaiti government did as best that they can do as an apology, and that's giving me a pardon. But this was a situation where I take deeply in my intimate and personal relationship with Allah. And that's the reason I say that, because Brother Malik asked me how was I and how am I doing in transitioning by now being on the outside and back home. Well, the process and preparation started with dealing with the warrior within. So when you go into a traumatic situation, you got to get back to God, recenter, reattach yourself. And I say this, Brother White, because Allah says in the Quran that He's in charge of all affairs. The testimony, because it was so dark, the light of hope came from prayer, came from fasting, came from physically training, came from putting my mindset and being determined, all right, to see the light of day, being determined to be face to face with my loved ones, being determined to put my arms around my children and my grandchildren. I'm a grandfather, Brother White.
Mm-hmm.
I lost loved ones, and newborns were brought into my family directly and immediately. It's a bigger picture, Brother White, and it's bigger than myself, and it's bigger than the issue of these two governments in the chess game that they're playing, because ultimately Allah says He is the only reality. And am I right, Brother Malik? Allah says in the Holy Quran that all the affairs return to Allah. So my focus has to be there, because when I left, all right, I told you I didn't care who had the keys. When I left general population, the guards and the warden, all of them were excited to see us go back and to be home with our families. But there were men over in deportation with nothing but rottenness in their spirit and disposition. And I just look and I said, okay, I see you, Satan. I see you, Jinn. I see you, Iblis. And I focus on getting back home. Okay, Brother White, the Kuwaiti government, as they have made it complicated for our last brother that's still there, could have continued to make it complicated. Okay, so for the mere fact for them to do that. Now, the legal aspect of dealing with that is a very delicate situation, because we still have people who are left behind. So you have to be careful. And that's why I said this story needs to be told behind closed doors with Black organizations, and an infrastructure need to be put in place on how we should move. Not only should we have special envoy set up for international affairs, but we also should have the support system in place. The organization that when I got back day one, I was debriefed. I saw professional counselors. I've been communicated with by organizations who were instrumental in bringing me home. They put in place health insurance, help prepare me to go back into the work world, either business or either working in my profession. So the thing that happened for me, Brother Malik, again, like the prodigal son, Brother White, if we recall that story, upon his return, his father saw him afar, and that was a preparation. Oh, my son has returned. And it was called to kill the fatted calf and to have a big celebration and bring him a garment. Well, my coming home was nothing less than that. I was received well by my family and by the community, people who I had lost contact with. I mean, there were so many tears. I haven't seen brothers. It's like black men looking for a space to cry. You know, childhood friends, Muslims, Kappa, whatever walk of life. I talked to several brothers who were just, in tears because of our personal relationship. I've been a friend to most. Pretty sure I got some haters and some enemies, but who cares? But if you check my track record, most people will tell you that brother there, he'll help you before he hurts you. He'll take off his shirt and give it to you. just like Brother Malik has done for me. That brother has opened his home up to me on several occasions. All right. I had issues with transportation. So here you go, brother. Had me riding around Florida in that, you know what I mean, that nice whip, you know what I mean? But it was real though, because it meant something to him, you know what I mean? But it meant more for him, for my I need my brother need to be all right. He need to be able to move around okay. He didn't give second thoughts to it. You know what I mean? Gave me the keys to his house, brother. I'm gonna be out of town, go pick up my car. You need anything, you know, my home is your home. See, that's real. See, real brotherhood. So, Brother White, yeah, we can focus on the government. That's another topic. That's another story. Man, I'm so elated and so much in the celebratory spirit because I'm like somebody who just won a Grammy or an Oscar. We now like to give this Oscar to Jay-Z or Kendrick Lamar. Yeah, you know, there's a clamor. Well, I was a recipient of Allah's Rahman Rahim. All these governments and the role they play, they just did God's will and got out of his way. Mm-hmm. And the part that concerns me in the community, we got to talk directly with those organizations. Brother Malik, Brother White, I've already started that process. I went and talked to the alumni chapter, Kappa Alpha Psi. So you brothers, y'all did a great job. I wrote a letter. I thanked them formally. And I made it known, you're going to have to put something in place. You're by the thousands. Thousands of organized people got behind you, Brother Malik. Every objective, every goal that you got, man, to help your people would be transformed overnight. But, man, we falling asleep at the wheel. Why we can't put simple things in place? Brother White, you are right in that concern. But nothing's going to happen for us, for the good of us, until we as a people become responsible and accountable for the concept of power as it ought to be. Allah changed not a condition of people today who are willing to change themselves. Is that not Quran?
Yeah. As we thank you, brother. As we close out, I got a couple minutes left. How can the listening audience contact you? Projects that you have going on, some of the vision that you discussed on the show here today. How can they get involved to support you? Where's your contact information? Where can they reach you on social media, etc.?
Well, I don't have a strong social media presence. I am on Facebook. They can DM me with their contact information. I'll reach out to them. Brother Malik, he's already, you know what I mean? In terms of people asking me how I'm transitioning, I got great friends, man. I mean, I'm humbled, man. I got great friends. I got people that love me dearly. I'm humbled, man. I'm a real dude, man. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that I'm afraid to cry, man, but I couldn't do nothing but be crying. And been crying and crying and crying since I've been home because of the overwhelming support. So DM me. I was a community activist before this situation, and now I have a personal story to add to that commitment and spirit. And again, Brother Malik, Brother White, you all, I thank you for allowing me to be on this platform, and more to come. Inshallah, if he provides me to live a life, I do intend on working on a book. I do intend on working on more social media presence as a means of encouragement. It's going to take the village concept to correct what's going on in our community. The government is going to continue to do what they do, act in the interest of the powers that be. The people, when we take the power back as we did in the 60s and other eras, where you saw great change in the nation, in the Black community. You know what I mean? We had Black Wall Streets and all these up and coming and well-developed Black neighborhoods and communities. We got to put the power back in the people. So, brother, if you will allow me to continue to work with you, and you, Brother White, as well, Brother Malik, not only does he work with me, he also coaches and mentors me. Continue to coach me and mentor me. Because, man, if we want to win this fight, man,
That's beautiful, brother. It was beautiful.
Yeah, Brother Tony, we're going to close out with, I guess, Lance. Dr. White has taken away, changed that music into one of my favorite periods.
Thank you, brother.
The improvisational period of jazz in the 1960s. Kind of started out with Miles Davis and what Brother Akbar Muhammad called the definitive work.
Yeah.
Kind of blue, 1959. Go get it. But again, Brother Tony, you're welcome to the Muslim Street anytime, bro. Tell your story. Thanks for joining us.
Yes. Thank you.
I'd like to mention just one thing that I failed to mention, along with our brother Adarius. Inbox me and DM me on how you can help us in that given situation. He needs to have food on his books. And I have to mention the people of Palestine and people of Gaza, because I was affected tremendously about, the pressure and the suffering, just people being, even in the Congo, oppressed people all over the world. Brother Tony Muhammad sends out his love and prayer.
Yeah.
Oppressed people all throughout the world to be liberated.
Holding Muhammad across social media on Facebook. Inbox him, support him. Again, I want to thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week on the Muslim Street.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.